Did you just throw your phone?
No, I did not throw the phone.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beg Pardon. As always, I'm your host Anthony, joined by Carlos. Welcome to the show. So this week we are talking about money. More specifically, billions with a B. And kind of give you our opinion on whether or not they should exist, billionaires. It's a popular topic. Ways to level the playing field if we believe that it needs to be leveled, and kind of where we can go from here. So if you're new to the show, Beg Pardon is a podcast kind of about everything and nothing at the same time. So Carlos and I, we throw together some topics and we give you our opinions on them. You did not ask for them, but we give them to you anyways. So we hope that you enjoy the show. Make sure that you check out any of the previous episodes that we have. We'll have all of our social media linked in the description below for you to catch up with us on social media as well. So thank you for tuning in today. Carlos, where do you kind of stand on this? Like, so you have two camps, right? You have Billionaire camp that is like, of course they should exist, right? A lot of them are hardworking individuals. If not persistent, if not determined, if not aggressive, whatever adjective you want to use, that is what they are. And then you have the other camp, you have the have-nots, right? And they're like, there is not enough wealth distribution in this country. And we're speaking specifically on the United States today. There's not enough wealth distribution in the country. There's not enough access. Where do you kind of fall on that spectrum?
I fall horde on the opposite side of horde on the opposite side of I don't think billionaires should exist at all. Yeah. I think it's mind blowing, and again, it's one of those things that you don't realize how big of a gap it is from million to billion until you see it played out. Like, until you actually see something that can equate similar to it, you don't realize the magnitude of it. Like, I watched a video where this guy, he was showing in grains of rice how much, like, $1 is, 100, a million, and a billion. A million was like maybe a $50 size. A billion was like this man poured a pile onto a table. Like, it wasn't even close. And I don't think people grasp that until you can see it physically. So Me personally, I don't think billionaires should exist. There's like you said, there's a lot of adjectives. Scumbag is one of them that I go with. So that's how I feel about billionaires. In case you haven't noticed, folks, spoiler alert, I'm not a big fan.
So is there any redeemable? I mean, so if you look at it, you have people like Bill Gates, right? Billionaire. One could argue a very philanthropic, very especially right now, in the age of COVID, very generous with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And is part of like that Billionaires Pact or Billionaires Pledge, along with Mark Zuckerberg and Warren Buffett, I think, to donate almost all of their wealth upon their death. Is there any redeemable? Like, could you be a good billionaire?
You could be a good billionaire if you had the title of billionaire, but you did not keep your money. So, like, you were worth billions of dollars, but you were consistently kicking majority of that out.
Where?
So other organizations helping your own country, like literally helping your own country. If the government's like, look, we're not going to fund a clean water program for a city, you step in and you fund it. Because, yeah, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett and them said that upon their death, but that's because you can't enjoy it anymore. Mm-hmm. So you're like, all right, now you guys can do what you want because I've had my fun. And then also, like, yeah, they have that pact where, they donate money all over, but that's like me and you starting a pact and we go spit in the ocean and we're like, we just rose a level for you folks. It didn't do anything. Bill Gates donates 30 million, $50 million. That's one tear from my eye. That's all it is. He doesn't even know
what a
it's
graphic
gone.
description.
Like, he doesn't notice it's gone. So, did you really do it because you wanted to help, or did you do it because you knew it was no big deal?
Yeah.
Like,
well, my issue isn't so much with the billionaires. It's the system that allowed them to become billionaires. I honestly don't feel like everyone has... Whenever people say, like, anyone can do anything in this country, that's not true. That is not true. Not with the same amount of... Not with equal effort, equal anything. Mm-hmm. They're, like... It's one of the most unequal systems I've ever seen, ever. And we live it. We feel it. And that's my issue. Whenever you get down to people not having the same access as other people. Whenever you have those same people, those top tier percentage of people that have all the wealth in this country making a majority of the political contributions every election cycle. Because money talks.
Yeah.
And you have one group of people, you have 1/10,000th of the population that contributed 25% of political donations in the 2012 election cycle. 1/10,000th. And those are the people that they're listening to. And the needs of the top 1% are not the needs of the bottom 90%. 99. They're not. I don't have the same problems as Bill Gates.
No.
I don't. I don't.
On a smaller scale, you realize how out of touch people are. Just watch Undercover Boss. They're not even billionaires, and they don't know what goes on the front lines of, one, their own company, yeah. And two, the lowest people you pay in your own company. So if you don't know what it's like to live in the life of one person in your own company, who you always find out, again, if you've never seen that show, folks, spoiler alert, they never pay them enough. And they're all shocked to find that out. They're always like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they couldn't raise their family on this. Or I didn't know that they needed dialysis medication or food and they had to pick. This is amazing. I can't believe. How did you not know that? But if they can't even be in touch with their people, what makes you think a billionaire like a Bill Gates or Warren Buffett knows anything of what you go through? Or even can, equate something similar to themselves of being like, hey, I understand what it's like to have to pick between your medication or food. I get it. I've had to pick between my favorite island and my favorite house. It's tough. That's the only thing they can equate. They'll never know what that's like. So how can I feel confident that they're going to help me in any way, shape, or form when you have no idea what it's like? Or at least you don't remember what it's like. Because again, Bill Gates, everyone loves to say, he started out of a garage. Cool. Or Jeff Bezos, they're like, oh, well, he delivered packages himself. Cool. I don't care. I don't care. That doesn't justify them being billionaires or needing billions of dollars. A lot of bands started in garages. Am I supposed to be mad that they're not platinum right now? They made decisions along the way that got them into $1 billion. They didn't work hard for it.
What's the answer? What's a answer?
I was like, that's $1 million question. I think a answer.
It's $1 billion question.
People are probably like, oh, I hate that noise. I think it just starts with a bigger tax on billionaires. I'm not even saying millionaires. I'm saying straight up billionaires.
Yeah.
Because in this country alone, there are far more billionaires. There's over 600 billionaires. 600. When you're fighting for majority of Americans can't even afford a medical bill. And I'm not talking like a heart surgery. I'm saying a straight up generic medical bill. Just even having a baby. You know how expensive it is to have a baby? Like, and I have to worry about that. And I have to get taxed out the wazoo. But they can claim their company taxes and all that, big tax breaks. A lot of them go to Puerto Rico. Take advantage of the tax laws there. A lot of pharmaceutical companies do that. Do they give back to them? No. Was there any aid really when storms happened? No. In fact, if you want to talk about that really quick, the president, for even a split second is too long for me, thought and asked, is it too late to sell them? You were going to sell American citizens because you didn't want to pay them aid. You were going to sell people. Do you understand that? Like, that's like if the president said, like, you know what? What's Utah doing nowadays? Can we get rid of them? Can we sell them? I don't see them doing much. People would lose their minds. And this is the same president who has helped billionaires become 10.6% richer during his presidency. And I'm supposed to feel bad for billionaires? Fuck out of here.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that people are saying, like, we should feel bad for them. I think that there's opposition. So some of the reasons why I think there's opposition to a tax, like a wealth tax, on people's money, is there's an argument that it would, it's like a punishment. It's a punishment for being successful. It's a punishment for making savvy business decisions in a capitalistic society. And it would deter the market here. It would deter companies from being successful, because now you are being punished if you're being successful. So what do you say to that? What do you say to that argument?
Well, I'd say two things. One,
Yeah.
Can you really call it punishment when probably, I'm not saying everyone, but probably most of your companies committed far bigger sins? Again, like I've always said, you wrote a check and it caught up to you. It's not a punishment. It's karma, it's just whatever you want to call it. It caught up to you. So you having to kick back to your own country, if you feel that's a punishment, is a much bigger ethics question that you need to answer. And the second thing I think is that we all have a responsibility in some way, shape, or form to help everyone we can in our own country. We all do. That's why, you have a lot of people who say, well, I became this or I became that because I wanted to help my community. Mm-hmm. When a billionaire does this, what they really are telling you is, I saw a way to get rich quick. Maybe not quick, but I saw a way to get rich. I saw a way to have people protect my brand and protect my business and screen for my business. And I can do all these shady things in other countries and never put my own money back into my own country to help my own people, because they don't. Even the quote-unquote jobs that everyone's like, they're stealing our jobs. No, they're not. And for the most part, these companies are giving jobs far outside anyway. So it's not savvy business deals. They're unethical business deals. They're immoral deals. And there's a lot of deals that I'm sure if it came to light, no one would be like, that was a smart business deal. It's not successful mergers or anything. It's monopolies.
What do you do for the companies now, though? So say you dismantle it. Say you tear the whole system down. One could argue that some of these companies would fail, right? Some of them could fail if you dismantle the entire system. What do you do to those employees? Like, where do they go? Because like you said, there was a monopoly created. So then you have people, I forget how many it is, 600,000 plus Amazon employees. Say Amazon didn't exist. Say, poof, it's gone. Mm-hmm. What would we do? Because, I mean, me personally, and correct me in the comments, shoot us an email, I don't know what system existed or series of smaller systems existed prior to Amazon that did the same thing. Mm-hmm. I don't. I know what Walmart was before Walmart. It was your local store. That makes sense to me. They went into communities, decimated them, threw in their Walmarts, and took a monopoly over the grocery system in the United States. and around the world. They're the largest private employer in the world. So I get that.
Yeah.
What do you do about like Amazon? Because I don't know. To me, Amazon, and again, I may be wrong, but Amazon brought a service that didn't exist before.
Well, I think
To that level.
To that level for sure. But I think, and again, I know I'm going to get corrected. Somebody can't wait to correct me probably. But I'm sure that if I think back hard enough, Jimmy Neutron style, I want to say eBay was that, where you went and it was pretty much everything there.
But
I mean,
you like bid? Don't you?
You say you had a bid on it.
Yeah, that's
that
a
was
little
the
bit
closest. That was the closest it was that you can quote
Yeah.
unquote shop online for almost anything. The only thing is that I mean it was a little game to it too because you had a bid on it. So
Yeah.
you're a gambling man. Like how much do
Right.
you want it? But I want to say eBay was that in the
And it
sense
didn't
of, like,
provide-
shipped to your house.
Wasn't it like consumer, like person to person, or
Yeah,
was it
it was-
businesses?
Well, you could set up a business one too. Like say I had a comic book shop or something. I can set up an account where I ship my stuff from my business to you. So there's also that. Like you as a business can have your own thing where you didn't have to auction off. There was a buy now thing where you can just click it. So in theory, it's a nice idea to not have to leave your house for times like this, where there's a pandemic. I've been alive 28 years. This happened once. My dad's been alive 68 years. This happened once. So it's a nice time for stuff like this now. But there's a difference between progress where he could have built brick and mortar shops to rival Walmart. Because as you said, Walmart was going through and literally driving through towns and saying like they were going to close in 4 months. They were basically sharpshooting stores. And they knew when they were going to close because they couldn't compete. But had he came in like a Target and try to help compete with that, that's different because now you're giving people options all over. But what you did was you saw the progress, you capitalized on it so far that now it's almost near impossible for small shops to thrive because you've conditioned people to not want to leave at all. Like Amazon conditioned you at first to not want to leave at all because you can get almost everything at home. And then that caused progress for smaller shops to go online and stuff. But what about the shops that were open? No one cared about the brick and mortar.
Couldn't they just move to online sales?
But then at what point it became so saturated? Because now it's not just your hometown. Now it's people from all over. So, I mean, all of that went into like people's marketing strategies. Some people just couldn't compete. And again, I get that. I get people are going to be like, well, competition is built. Shut your mouth. Stop right now. But what I'm saying is he had an obligation at some point to be like, hey, I'm making this much money. Let me at least, the least I can do is pour it back into either my own employees because they're not walking away with, no one's saying Amazons are the highest paid employees in any line. No one's like, he's spreading the wealth. It's a great place to work. We're all getting paid in gold coins like we're Scrooge McDuck. Not doing that. So you are doing nothing from a humanitarian standpoint to further that. If it was about progress, that's what you would have done. You would have progressively shown everyone else, I can afford to pay all my employees with this because we're doing so good. I'm not just destroying the market.
Right. Where's the level at? Because one could argue that like his lowest paid employees in Amazon make $16.40 an hour. $16.40 an hour. And what is the national minimum wage? $7.25? So over double the minimum wage in the whole country. What would have been an acceptable rate of pay for it to be a progressive move?
But even that's a trick question, because that goes into the whole argument of federal minimum wage is it's nothing. You can't even afford. No one can afford a 2-bedroom on federal minimum wage.
Correct.
No.
How's that Amazon's problem?
But that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily his problem, but it's also not anything he's doing to fix. Like I'm saying, you have
paying
so
his
much
employees
money.
over double what that isn't anything. You I don't know if you could get a 2-bedroom apartment on $16.40 an hour. Oh, depending on where you live, you could. Depending on where you live,
depending on where you live, yeah, definitely.
But you don't think that was anything?
I don't think that's anything in sense of, again, your business is clearly thriving because of your profit.
Mm-hmm.
You
especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, and you are not spreading that. Again, like I said before about Bill Gates, $30 million, that's nothing. $16 an hour, he makes more in 1 hour than any of his employees will probably make in a year. In 2 years, maybe even.
Correct. He makes 157 times the median annual salary of an Amazon worker. An hour for their year. Are you suggesting that all the Amazon employees should get $4,474,885 an hour?
That'd be amazing. I'd go to Amazon if that happened.
Everyone would.
His profits would go even higher. Look at that. I just helped his cause right there. Give me a call.
I don't know that would work. I think the demand for Amazon would, unless all of the employees went to Amazon and bought all this stuff. I mean, maybe that's what Walmart does. I mean, Walmart pays their employees so little and then get kickback from the government because they provide more people to go on federal aid, and then they buy their groceries from Walmart as soon as they get off work.
One hand washes the other.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not saying that he needs to pay everyone $4 million, blah blah blah. I'm not saying that.
That's what I'm asking. Where's the mark at for it to be considered progressive?
Me personally,
yes.
I think even if you have $500 million to your name, you could still help out people tremendously. If you have $187 billion after you had to give your ex-wife a ton of money,
mm-hmm.
even after you did that, you are still far into billionaire territory. I don't care if he raised his minimum wage to $30 an hour for each person. You still could have did more. Because at the end of the day, these are the people that are pouring their whole lives into making your pockets full.
But what is like, I feel like if we're not giving markers,
mm-hmm.
if we're not giving markers, like you're giving an expectation, mm-hmm. more is the expectation, but you're not giving a market or a marker or a measure to meet. So then
sure.
what is that marker to where we're saying like a janitor, right, at a Amazon warehouse should make $120,000 a year. Like, where's your what would a janitor, knowing his net worth, and
sure.
what should he be paying his janitors? Like an Amazon warehouse, specifically a janitor. Specific number.
That's hard because I couldn't equate a specific number. I could tell you something like whatever
more?
It cost. No, whatever it costs for them to be able to not have to sacrifice things just to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it should be. Let's say it costs $150,000 a year.
Where?
Let's just say that's what it costs.
Okay.
If you're not even at least helping people meet the financial need just to live, just to survive, I don't think you're doing enough. And it's not $150,000, but that just threw the number out.
It's nowhere close to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a number off the top of your head for not even a 2-bedroom, a 1-bedroom apartment. We'll squeeze everybody into one for a year.
In Middleville, USA.
Middleville, USA, 1-bedroom apartment.
42,000.
Okay, so 42,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Even.
I even think that might be a lot, but stick with 42.
Let's say 42,000 a year. That's still not including, again, your own groceries. If God forbid you need to take medications, to pay for a car, none of that's included. And I'm not saying that's his problem to help you with that, but the point is, you have the ability and the capability to help someone live, not just survive, but live. And that's the thing is, other people or older generations say like, well, I had this job and I was able to put my kids through college. Yeah, you know why? Because everything was far cheaper.
Yeah.
College was like $112 for a year.
Yeah.
That's how much I spent on a book.
Yeah.
Like the gap between the rich and the poor hit like an all-time high. I want to say in like 2018, and that's hit the high. It's been widening. It's never gotten closer or anything. It's only been
Correct.
widening
Correct.
over the last 50 years.
Correct.
So I don't understand how, and I'm not saying you are right now, but I don't understand how people can so adamantly fight like, well, it's their right to make that money. They worked hard for it. No, they didn't. And you're backing that because you think one day you're going to be in those shoes. And I am sorry to be the dark cloud in your life right now. I'm going to tell you that's not happening for you. I can almost promise you that. And my word is my bond. And I can almost promise you that if you think that way right now, odds are, 1, you're already out of the game, or 2, it's not happening because you don't have the mind frame to go out and do it. You're just thinking it would be nice if I had it, and if I had it, I wouldn't want anybody saying anything to me. Okay.
But to go out and do it, should it not be done?
If you can find a way to do it ethically, and if you can find a way to do it where you don't compromise morals or other people's safety.
I feel like morals are vague.
Morals are more black and white than vague. I'm talking strict, straight up moral.
Like
you don't
murder.
Put a child to work in a factory. Yeah, you don't put a child to work in a factory. You don't threaten to murder their family if they don't stitch some more clothes. Like things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are immoral. But that's what some companies do. Some companies do have children working in factories. Some companies have parents working in factories for 20 hours a day, and they get paid far less than minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
To be a billionaire, you have to exploit people at their lowest to turn your profit. And that's what I have a problem with. It's not that you have that much money. It's that you have that much money and you do nothing in turn to help anyone.
But should they just give it to people? Like, how would that work?
I mean, here's the thing.
Because you could argue,
giving it to people.
You could argue that if you just blindly give it to people,
Mm-hmm.
people are just going to buy more stuff with it.
You could argue
Big
that.
chunk of people.
Sure. But let's say Amazon had a program where you worked for Amazon, this was in your list of benefits, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you worked for Amazon, you knew that you were going to get an apartment or a house in this range because that's already covered for you.
Oh, they pay for your housing? They pay for your housing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're nervous that, your money's going to go to, they're going to blow it on drugs and prostitutes. I don't know who's going to do that, but if that's where you think your money's going to go, then build it into their benefits because you clearly had the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You clearly did. Even if they stopped working for you or you had to fire them, which I guarantee you, if you did that for people, they wouldn't stop working for you. They would stay there because they're going to want to see what else happens.
Mm-hmm.
But even if they stop working for you, you still help somebody not be on the street. How many people are on the street right now?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, over 600 billionaires, you're going to tell me even if you all combined pooled your money and only kicked in this much money, you couldn't solve all that? Over 600 of you?
What about the argument that it's never enough? Both you and I mean, you made that argument about the billionaires themselves. Mm-hmm. Say Amazon did do that. Both you and I have been in situations on a much smaller scale where we give something to employees, right?
Sure.
At some point, though, it's never enough. It was never enough. It was always like the whole adage, the give an inch, take a mile thing. Yeah. It was real, and it really happened. Yeah. So how do you combat that? If that was a route that we go, how do you combat that? Because it isn't enough.
That is always a thing in the back of your mind. If you give a mouse a cookie, X, Y,
he puts it in his pocket.
Was
that the book? Was that the book? Did he put it in his pocket?
Well, he asked for a glass of milk.
Oh.
I don't know. if your mouse was saving it for a rainy day.
Yeah,
like,
I guess so.
He was on really hard times, your mouse.
Yeah. He had to share with his family. His mouse wife and mouse kids.
Somebody also correct us if we're both wrong. That's not how the book went.
Yeah. It was like you give a mouse a cookie and he fell into the mouse trap.
But yeah, that's always a fear, that it's never enough.
Yeah.
But at least at the end of the day, even the things that we did that on a much smaller scale, it didn't take away from the fact that our intentions were X. At least at the end of the day, I could live with myself for what I had to do. Even how stressful it was, even how degrading it was at times for some of the stuff that we had to do.
We weren't like prostitutes. That made it sound like we were prostitutes.
No. We're talking like I clean people's rooms so they can go home as housekeepers and stuff like that. Which I was there like 16 hours. That's a whole different podcast. There's earlier episodes about
and that part wasn't what we were saying was degrading. I mean, the amount of...
just the amount of like work and the arguments you get into where, people try to combat you with it's not enough. That becomes degrading because you feel this big.
Right.
But I still wouldn't change it. Because I know I was making the right decision. In my mind, that was the right decision. Because I was sacrificing my time or, whatever it was for me was a sacrifice that I was willing to make because I was fortunate enough to be blessed in a position that I was in.
Right.
And I think that's, at the end of the day, what you should have focused on if you're a billionaire. Is at the end of the day, you are far better in a position, or in a far better position than 99% of the population.
Yeah, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Warren Buffett together have more money than the 160 million poorest Americans. Those three men. Those three white men.
That's another episode for you folks.
Have more, yeah.
And I don't know how, even if people are going to be like, well, that's crazy, that won't work, that's outlandish. Okay. But how can you live with yourself knowing you have all this money, you have all this capability to help tremendously, and you chose not to? You have, ironically, the capability to be a superhero.
So, at the end of the day, we don't know what the answer is and how to combat this. All we both know is that the current system doesn't work. And it hasn't for a long time for very many Americans. Yeah. And hopefully, I see progression of thought with a lot of Americans, a lot of younger generations, to say that this isn't okay, and hopefully dismantle the system that allows it. Again, me personally, I have no issue with billionaires or the massive amount of wealth that they're able to. I have an issue with how the system that allowed them to get it. They're like in a comparison that's easy to digest. Like, they're the sinner. That's the sin. The system is the sin. The system is what is wrong. The other people took advantage of the system, just like anyone probably else would have. They were just able to do it because they had the means and the resources. Again, this is another episode about race in this country, which we will do in the future. They had the means, they had the resources, they had the background, they had the wealth, they had the generational wealth to be able to do the things that they did. And so many people are left in the dark. Let us know what you guys think. If you have any great ideas on what we should do, how we should move forward. I know that everyone's very divided on a wealth tax idea. For the sake of this conversation, I just played a counter. Carlos and I are on the same page with this. So it's very hard to have a dialogue.
Spoiler.
It's very hard to have a dialogue whenever you're both in agreement on a subject matter. But we both advocate for a wealth tax of the uber rich, and something has to be done. Something has to be done, and we don't say that because we're not billionaires. We say that because the poor are getting poorer, the rich are getting richer. And at some point, poor is going to be too poor. And it's just going to get worse and going to get worse and going to get worse. And it's not in the best interest of the country as a whole whenever you have the tippity top 1% squeezing out all the wealth. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Links to all of our social media, like I said before, will be right below this video as well. Make sure you check out some of our previous YouTube videos as well. We do different topics every single week, as well as some side episodes. You'll hear our water cooler series, and we have a Hall of History series where we dive into historical topics around the world and in the United States. So as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all the love that we received. We launched this podcast in January of this year, and it's been absolutely incredible. And honestly, super surprising. And then shout out to everyone who listens to us near and far away, all over the world. With the exception of the continent of Africa. Please, if you have any friends that live over there, please have them listen. As that's one place on our map we'd like to put a pin in. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.
And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you can stay up to date on all our episodes. And we have the audio version, so you can listen to us in the car, on the treadmill, out for a walk, or even just in the background while you're cleaning. But that will do it for us on this week's Beg Pardon, a little lengthier than usual. As always, he's been Anthony, I've been Carlos, and in the great Ozark quote, money is not peace of mind, money is not happiness, money is at its essence that measure of a man's choices. Until next time.